Hi everyone and welcome to Sarandippity. My name is Saran, I'm your host, and you're listening or watching a podcast where through conversation, discussion, and questioning, we confront the constructs of our world and in the end, create our own serendipity. So let's get back into it. Okay, so hey everyone, thank you so much for clicking on this episode, and if you're new, welcome. I see all the new people and I'm so glad that you're here, so I hope you enjoy today's episode. I'm so thankful for all the messages and the comments. I really appreciate it. But y'all see me cheesing? I'm just super excited. But yeah, today we have an episode that's almost like a part 2 to my Pretty Privilege video, where if you haven't listened, you can click the link down below after this to watch it, or you could watch it right now and then come back to this, but either way, watch both. So this is the part 2 to that video, because towards the end of that video I started talking a little bit about the politics of insecurity and being insecure and all that. So I wanted to bring that back in today's episode, but kind of tie it into the issue of the BBL epidemic, because obviously if you've been on the internet in the past month, you've heard about this. So I'm excited to get into today's episode and let's talk about insecurity. So before you watch this video, I did want to put a disclaimer because I don't think I explained this as well as I should have. So in this episode, we will be talking about the BBL and also just plastic surgery in general, so trigger warning. But on top of that, I do want to say that the point of this video is not to tell anyone to do anything with their body. The point is really just to look at insecurities and to get into the issue of insecurities. And even more so, I'm not saying that people get plastic surgery solely because they have insecurities. I just wanted to look at that specific aspect of the BBL epidemic. So I hope you enjoy this episode, and yeah. Y'all see what I did there with the, the slanted eye, and I love the show Insecure, so that's why I had to. But today, obviously, I've said it 3 times. Let me get to it. But if you've been on the internet, as I said before, you've heard about the BBL. But if you haven't, don't worry. I got you with an intro. So the BBL is the Brazilian butt lift. And don't ask me why it's called Brazilian. I think it probably was made in Brazil. But yeah, it's known as the Brazilian butt lift. And this is a cosmetic surgery where they use liposuction to take fat from somewhere else in your body. So say your thighs, your stomach, your back. They use that liposuction, they get the fat out, and then they use a fat graft to insert that fat right back into your body, but specifically into your butt and hips to give you a more wide, voluptuous butt. Except this is the version that looks a lot more natural compared to using silicone and all those. So this is the most popular surgery right now, and it's really being pushed by this idea of a very Coke bottle, tiny hips, tiny waist, wide hip ratio thing that's going on the internet right now. Now, why is it an epidemic? Well, essentially what has happened is, if you've been on TikTok usually, but also YouTube, you'll see a bunch of videos coming up right now where it's like my BBL journey, my BBL before and after, BBL vlogs. So people have been noticing that more and more people are getting BBLs. But on top of that, I'll insert this video, but a couple of weeks ago, there was this one girl who posted a video of her, and she was returning to Atlanta from the DR, and it was a line of women who were in wheelchairs, probably from a surgery, and they assumed that it was a BBL. It was most likely a BBL. But yeah, so that's what started the really heavy discourse that is bringing me to this episode, and why I want to talk about insecurity. So the BBL, obviously, it makes sense why it's in right now. When you look through the Instagram influencers, or you look at the most popular women right now, they all have that Coke bottle shape, that very much hourglass, zero waist. If you think about how popular the waist trainer is right now, we literally are crushing our ribs in for this. So it makes a lot of sense why it is so popular right now. But a lot of the critique that you'll see online is around this idea that women have, specifically black women, let me focus. But yeah, specifically black women have an issue with self-confidence, have an issue with insecurity, and that they need to fix this issue in themselves. This is a personal flaw, and that these women are dumb for doing this. There's also a layer of the fact that this is a dangerous surgery, which I'm going to get into a little bit later, but I want to start by just defining insecurity at a base level and talking about the way insecurity manifests in our individual lives. So let's start with our dictionary definition. So first of all, we have the word insecure, which is an adjective, and this means a person who is not confident or assured, or someone who's just uncertain and anxious. The definition of insecurity, and this is all according to, I think it's the Merriam-Webster, but I'll put it on the screen if that's not correct. But this is a noun, and it refers to uncertainty or anxiety about oneself, a lack of confidence. In these definitions, you see an overall emphasis on the issue of confidence. Essentially, they're saying that this experience of insecurity comes from a lack thereof confidence, and that is what causes people to feel this uncertainty about themselves. But I want to challenge that idea, because as I was reading, I really started to think about whether confidence and insecurity are really mutually exclusive. And especially in the BBL discourse, when we talk about the issue of women deciding to get this surgery to get more confidence or maybe to love themselves more, there becomes the conversation of, can everyone be confident? Because if confidence is really something that is individual or based on just an individual self-image, then is it possible for all of us to really work on ourselves to become confident? So while doing my research, I ended up coming upon an article, and this is by a doctor who works with celebrities, the rich people, on issues of confidence and self-assurance. And this was one of the quotes that he put, and I thought this was super interesting. So he says that confidence can't exist in the absence of insecurity. Essentially, that every human is insecure. All of us are insecure. And that's honestly where I align with. I strongly believe that confidence and insecurity kind of exists in that realm of le différence. If you don't know what that is essentially the idea that words gain meaning from other words. So I don't know what confidence is because I know what insecurity is. So they both give each other meaning. That being said, I strongly believe that in order for confidence to exist, insecurity has to exist as well. Insecurity is everywhere in our world. Nobody's 1,000% confident. Anyone who's saying they are, is a lie. But anyways, is insecurity truly something that is a self problem, like something that we're creating in ourselves that we have to fix on our own, an indictment of our being? Or does insecurity have more to do with the world that we live in, the issues and the images that are projected onto us? And that's when we went a little further. So then he went into defining confidence, and this is where I was like, yeah, me and you, we on the same page. So he said, confidence is the felt experience that you can act and have an impact on the world. If you have to be on your own in order to feel confident, you're not really confident. Confidence has a lot to do with how you function in the world. I thought this was really interesting because if you watched my video about pretty privilege and desirability politics, where I was like, this is my declaration of ugly, like, I'm good. That's one of the big points that we talk about when we define critiquing what beauty is, because I'm not saying I'm ugly as a internalized dislike of myself. I'm saying it as a rejection, or no, not even a rejection, a critique of the way that the world paints beauty on my body. So when we look at insecurity, it exists in the same realm where you're saying, okay, I'm insecure, but it is not an effect of me and my self-image and my internalization of other images. It is more so a critique of what the world is doing to me. So those quotes really have my mind thinking, because when you talk about the BBL epidemic, a lot of the conversations are around, oh, these are beauty standards, they're gonna change, why are women doing this, like, just love yourself. And then you also have the issue of a lot of these women actually already have butts, they already look good, at least to other people's views. So when you look at body dysmorphia, like, why are these women going to do this? It's almost like people were coming at these individual women and saying, oh, y'all are just so awful, like, why can't y'all get it together, without acknowledging that for literally the past decade, women have been bombarded with this image of what is desirable. And that desirability is the image of a woman with an extremely small waist and extremely wide and full hips and butts. So is it really the fault of women for wanting to feel desirable? is it really their fault for wanting to fit the image that they have been told for so long is the right image? Now, there's another layer to this, because when we talk about the BBL, I kind of referred to this a little bit earlier, but this is a very dangerous surgery. In fact, it has a 1 in 3,000. Yeah, 1 in 3,000 fatality rate. Actually, I don't know if this is true, but I heard someone say that this is like on the level of like heart surgery. So obviously there's other complaints that can be there. Like, why are women coming to get this surgery that they could very likely die from? But when I was doing my research, I was really trying to figure out why so many women were dying from this surgery, because we have so many different surgeries. Like, we have breast implants, we have lip fillers, we have Botox. All of these are major modifications on the body. So what is making the BBL so different? So, quick little anatomy lesson. Essentially, what is happening with the BBL, as I explained earlier, is you're transferring fat. And when you transfer fat, you have to put it into a place that has blood supply. You could put it into other fat that doesn't have blood supply, but what ends up happening is 90% of this fat is going to be absorbed by the body, and therefore you're not going to get the look you want. You're not going to get the Nicki booty. You're not going to get the Beyonce booty. Like, you're not going to get the desired look. So what ends up having to happen is they have to insert the fat into the muscle. And this is a surgery that has to be done by someone who is truly, truly educated. Because if you end up inserting the fat under the muscle instead of above the muscle, the fat can get into your vein and cause a fat embolism. So this is essentially where fat gets stuck in the veins and it causes a stroke. And it is extremely deadly, and that is where you're seeing a majority of these women die. But even with that being the risk, what we're seeing also is that other surgeries do this as well. Women who get breast implants also end up getting fat implanted into their tissue. So what is happening? Why is this? What is the issue? Well, what I found is over and over again, we're seeing this issue is being caused by incompetent doctors. Yes, doctors who don't really know what they're doing, doctors who are inserting too much fat into the body, or who just don't have the resource or the knowledge to do this correctly, and it's killing women. Women are dying because of this. Yeah. Not only that, but when we look at how this surgery has historically been done, we look at it mostly being done to celebrities. So when we talk about Kim K, when we talk about Kylie, when we talk about Khloe, just the Kardashian, Jenner, those people. Well, these celebrities have money, so they're able to go to these doctors that have good oversight on them, who have good knowledge. But now when you see women who are not as rich, not as affluent, who are going to get these surgeries, they end up going to places like the DR or Colombia, and they're going to doctors who first are lying on the internet because you have people who are stealing images from other doctors and putting them on their Instagram, but also who don't have the infrastructure to truly do this surgery correctly. So what is happening is that you have all these incompetent doctors, and you have more women who now have less resource in this field, who are going to these surgeons who aren't going to do them right, and women are dying because of this. That goes to another point of like, is that still the women's fault? Because even though it's a dangerous surgery, if we're recognizing that people are dying, not because the surgery itself is magnitudes more dangerous than other types of cosmetic surgery, if we're acknowledging that it is because of doctors, then again, you see the issue of people getting taken advantage of by a system that does not care about them, that is just about money, and that doesn't have the adequate infrastructure to really make sure people are okay. Now, let's take a little break. I am not advocating for anything. I should have put this at the beginning. I'm not advocating for any type of surgery. No, nothing. That is not this conversation. We are talking about insecurity and how this intertwines with the issue of the BBL epidemic. So obviously I pointed to the issue of insecurity and how insecurity is less of an issue of what someone's self-image is and their self-awareness or even just body dysmorphia, and more of an issue of the ways in which the world is really parasitic on our self-image, the way the world forces ideas of what beauty should be onto us in a very violent way, and we feel like we have to react to that. We feel like we have to be beautiful because beauty has so many different consequences. And I also want to point out that these consequences are bigger than just relationship and family and being desirable in a romantic way. They infiltrate just the way that we are treated. They infiltrate the medical industry. They infiltrate schools. They infiltrate income and material conditions. So obviously beauty is very much consequential. So having that in mind and acknowledging that women are going to be insecure, that insecurity is a part of our world. How do we protect women? How do we protect women from either getting the surgery or whatever? How do we just protect women from the abuse of insecurity of beauty? Well, that's when we get into the politics of insecurity. So again, if you watched my Pretty Privilege video, I talked about the politics of insecurity a little bit towards the end. And one of the people I brought up was Deshaun Harrison, and they're writing about insecurity and fat phobia. Well, I'll be bringing them back into this episode because we're making it political. Insecurities are not a personal indictment. They're an indictment of the world. Being that this is the case, we should run towards insecurity, not as a trauma to inform our politics, as it is dangerous to navigate the world of politics through trauma rather than an informed praxis, but as a political tool that aids in developing our understanding of and relationship to oppressive power structures. So in that quote, what Deshaun is pointing to is that these insecurities are a part of a structural violence, and they're an effect of that, because the ways in which this world preys on us through beauty affect how we perceive ourselves. That being said, insecurity is just as political as beauty, is just as political as desirability. It's just overall a political issue. And when we take insecurity and we acknowledge it for what it is, an effect of a very parasitic relationship between the beauty industry and our own self-images, we can actually call out the ways in which this hurts us. One of the ways I believe we can make insecurity political is to stop acting like this is something that you can just wish away. A lot of times when people come on the internet preaching self-confidence, they usually tell people, oh, you can gain self-confidence by just doing this, or just affirmation, or just these little things that are like, okay, maybe that works for you, but in the grand scheme of things, when we're looking at insecurity as an issue that is created by world standards, it has to be a lot deeper than that. So that means being honest. We need to be honest that we all have captive desires. We all have the experience of wanting to make ourselves more desirable, whether that fits the issue of colorism, whether that fits the issue of fat phobia, whether that fits the issue of sexism. In many ways, we all have captive desires, and if we're honest about that and honest about the ways in which those infiltrate our daily lives, we can actually let young girls know, or just other women know, that they're not alone in their insecurity, that they're not the only one who feels this way. So with that, I'll end this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. We were just kind of getting into the BBL epidemic a little bit. Make sure you tune into my next episode. It's pretty much the season finale, so I'll just be doing a little summary of all the things we talked about this season, which we talked about a lot. Make sure you follow the Instagram at Sarandippity Pod. You know it. I say it every time. It's the link is down below. Like, go ahead and click it. And also DM me or comment your feelings. This is a conversation that I think we all need to have, but we have to have it the right way. So thank you again for watching or listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye.